Nerdrotic.com.
It looks like it's time for another Disney is Burning video, so you over 788,000 awakening wonders in the 40% who haven't subscribed yet, you know the drill. After 2 years of Marvel Stage 4 MCU failures and a string of Lucasfilm misfires, including Willow, which was not only canceled, it was removed from Disney+. And I would be remiss to not bring up the multiple Pixar flops. Millions of subs lost and billions of dollars lost on D+. After wading into politics and getting into a fight with an entire state and losing its special tax status. Disney stock started to tank, and then they fired their CEO, Bob Chapek, in the middle of the night on a Sunday, only to bring back Bobby Iger, the weatherman. And how has it gone since then?
What are you, f***ing stupid?
Unfortunately for Disney, all downhill, including firing Marvel executive Victoria Alonso. This was followed by firing Marvel chairman Ike Perlmutter along with 7,000 other people, but it doesn't end there. Then the chief diversity officer, Latondra Newton, departed. Galaxy's Edge, the Disney Star Wars experience that charged families thousands of dollars for rooms the size of your average broom closet, shut down permanently. The stock continued to tank, and so did the box office. Antifa Man, Commie Mania was a flop. Little Mermaid underperformed, in other words, was a flop. Elemental, another Pixar flop. And this was closely followed by the massive catastrophic flop that was Indiana Jones and the Depends of Destiny, which I'm sure is going to add to the reported almost $1 billion they've lost in recent films, and that is overshadowed by the $4 billion they've lost in streaming. And if all that wasn't bad enough, the hits keep coming, except in Disney's case. Indy 5 was embarrassed by 2 indie movies, and we'll get into that in just a bit. Things have gotten so bad that the corporate media complex actually has to acknowledge it. Of course, the access media comes to all the wrong conclusions and completely refuses to talk about one of the main factors of Disney's failures, which we will also get into later. But first, let's hear what they have to say. This article comes to us from Variety, which is owned by the Penske Media Group, which also happens to own Deadline, The Hollywood Reporter, and Rolling Stone. Disney's harsh new reality, costly film flops, creative struggles, and a shrinking global box office. Hey, no one likes shrinkage, am I right, ladies? For the past decade, Disney has been the Teflon movie studio, remarkably adept at withstanding the tectonic changes impacting the film industry. And they remain remarkably adept at manipulating the media to help cover for their multiple mistakes and assist in things like fan baiting. I digress. And well fortified by its arsenal of key properties such as Marvel, which they purchased, Lucasfilm, which they purchased, and Pixar, which they purchased. And those purchases did well, but like I've said in the past, Disney didn't start Pixar, Lucasfilm, or Marvel, but as it stands right now, they're sure going to finish them. But this year, the long-rating titan of the box office has shown cracks as 4 of its biggest releases from those brands and others have struggled in theaters. There was the dispiriting release of Antifa Man, Commie Mania, a rare Marvel movie to likely lose tens of millions in its theatrical run. The Little Mermaid, a remake of a 1989 animated classic that fell drastically short of expectations. Elemental, an original story that tried and failed to recapture Pixar's magic. Bet you miss John Lasseter now. And most recently, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Dysentery, a nearly $300 million investment in one of cinema's most venerable franchises, which no longer appears to have the same hold on today's audiences, you think? On paper, these films seem like they had all of the makings of huge hits, but somehow the Disney sparkle was lacking this time. Hate to break it to you, sweetheart, it never existed. In terms of filling movie theater seats, Variety does attempt to run some cover for Disney by mentioning 2022, where Disney had some hits. Now, Avatar 2 was absolutely a runaway hit. It is the 3rd highest grossing movie of all time without adjusting for inflation, and it's also a holdover from Fox. And if James Cameron lives long enough and they make 30 more Avatars, Disney might be able to recoup some of the $71.3 billion they paid for Fox. The other 2 hits from Disney in 2022, Wakanda Forever and Doctor Strange Mom. Now, I'd mentioned in previous videos that I had spoken to somebody who has worked on a previous Disney Marvel product, and they told me that Disney was vastly underreporting their budgets to the tune of $50 to $100 million, and now we have that confirmed. From Forbes, Disney reveals Doctor Strange 2 cost $100 million more than its estimated budget, bringing its budget to $300 million. Now add that to every single Marvel Stage 4 film and Antifa Man Call Me Mania. So are these hits, or are they just eking out a profit? Barring a miracle or a sudden surge of interest in all things Haunted Mansion, which looks to be another flop, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 looks like it'll be the studio's biggest earner of the year with $835 million, which is too bad. It came up short of its predecessor, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, and its director, James Gunn, who was fired and then hired back, off to work for the competition. But not to worry, Disney, you still have one more potential hit this year, The Marvels. You know, the direct sequel to Captain Marvel, where the main character was demoted, and now it's a direct sequel to 3 Disney Plus shows no one's watched. Then there's this misleading line after mentioning Guardians 3 making $835 million this year. It's the first time since 2014, except for the pandemic-stricken years of 2020 and 2021. Incidentally, Spider-Man No Way Home, which made $1 billion, came out in 2021, that Disney won't have a movie that reaches $1 billion. What that should say is Spider-Man No Way Home is the only superhero movie that's made $1 billion since The Joker, and no Disney Marvel movie has made $1 billion since Endgame. Yet, according to Variety, Disney still far outranks the competition in terms of market share in 2023, commanding 37% of the industry's revenues for now. Universal is close behind at 31%, but ticket sales for the films it has produced have been more earthbound, especially compared to the last pre-COVID year, when Disney fielded a record 7 movies that crossed the $1 billion mark in 2019. Now, what was different about 2019? Sure, it was before COVID, that one's obvious, best economy of my lifetime, but there's something else. There's one mitigating factor that no one from Variety, The Hollywood Reporter, Deadline, or any of the other Access Media rags will ever acknowledge. They know the truth, they just refuse to see it.
Puerto Rico.
But you're a smart viewer, you've already guessed it, but to be fair, I'm not done with the article. Let's see if the Access Media figures it out. Spoilers, no. Disney Marvel's diminishing returns have been obvious for quite some time to a lot of us here, yet there has been a lot of cope, a lot of rationalization, and we still hear it to this day. Doctor Strange Mom made a profit. Wakanda Forever made a profit. Technically, they did. But newsflash, Disney doesn't spend $300+ million on a movie to eke out a profit, barely pay off the catering staff, and pocket a couple $100. Disney's movies each require production budgets of at least $200 million, plus marketing costs of roughly $100 million. That means the studio's films have a higher benchmark than its rivals to break even at the box office. In the past, those budgets were justified with movies that crossed $1 billion worldwide with ease. Those price tags are riskier in today's box office landscape. Now, is this the point where Variety gets to what is Disney's biggest problem since 2019? Not the only problem, but the biggest problem. No, with China's dollars no longer a guarantee due to tensions with the West and changing tastes, well, I guess thinking a concentration camp in China only goes so far. And no films are being released in Russia right now for obvious reasons. As a result, the international box office has diminished to a shadow of its former self, and that has major consequences for Disney's profitability and Hollywood's. Anything Disney threw out in 2019 made $1 billion, says Jeff Bach, an analyst from Exhibitor Relations, and now we know why Jeff makes the big bucks. Now it's more difficult than ever to release a film worldwide. The international landscape has changed. I wonder what changed about it. It's not close to back. The problem is that getting these costs under control will take time. Time that Disney and Hollywood no longer has. That's another thing we'll get to. Major movies take at least 3 or 4 years to develop, produce, and distribute. A lifetime in a fast-changing industry. Even if Disney is serious about tightening its belt, it may not make a noticeable difference until 2026 or beyond. It takes a long time for a big ship like Disney to change its course. I've been saying that for years, says Paul Verna, principal analyst at Insider Intelligence. You know, for being an entertainment rag, Variety sure does miss a lot. Now, I won't blame you for forgetting about this, but we're well into the 3rd month of the writer's strike, and we're still hearing COVID excuses. And now that Disney and Hollywood got everything back up and running, they shut down again. Talk about a self-inflicted mortal wound. So let's recap some of the very legitimate reasons Variety has given for Disney's massive failures, not necessarily in any order. No distribution in Russia, tensions with China, ballooning budgets, COVID, cannibalizing its own content with soulless remakes, abandoning movie theaters and hyper-focusing on streaming. While those are all good reasons for Disney's massive failures, there still seems to be something missing. Let's see if Variety catches it. People have become conditioned to expect that things will quickly appear on D+, says Neil Macker, a senior equity analyst for Morningstar Research Services. The theatrical movie business has been in decline for a while, and the pandemic accelerated that, and I wonder what the writer's strike's gonna do. Pixar has suffered the most from that mindset, analysts believe. Pixar is becoming an anemic brand, notes Verna. It's fallen so far from the days in which anything it released would blow the doors off. No, Disney is the anemic brand. Let's talk about the oversaturation on streaming. If it was an oversaturation of mediocre shows, yet some were good, it would be doing a lot better. The problem is, it's been an oversaturation of complete shit. Let's talk about just the past 3 from Disney Marvel. There was Miss Marvel, a show that no one watched. She-Hulk, a show that very few people watched and regretted it, and Secret Invasion, and we're right back to a show that no one's watching, which, surprisingly enough from Disney, is a show about a broken down old man, Nick Fury, which has only been overshadowed by a movie about a broken down old man, Indiana Jones, or the last 3 offerings from Disney Star Wars on D+, Boba Fett, about a confused old man, Obi-Wan, about a sad middle-aged man who's a horrible babysitter, and The Mandalorian Season 3, where they replaced the man. Oh, I almost forgot Andor, or Blandor, and apparently a lot of people forgot it was on. Now, admittedly, some people liked it, but not enough, and it cost $250 million to make. Then there's National Treasure, which was canceled, Willow, which was canceled and removed from the platform, and Crater, which I had never heard of until I heard it cratered so hard it was removed from the platform. And that was another $50 million up in smoke. And again, while all these shows were coming out, D+ was bleeding subscribers. Now prepare for some Access Media logic whiplash on this one. Star Wars 2 has lost its luster in theaters as the franchise, set in a galaxy far, far away, has found repeated success on D+ with series like The Mandalorian and Andor. Beloved audience, you're going to have to excuse me on this one. I need to talk directly to the Access Media, and I would like to ask them to please come in closer, and I'll speak slowly so you understand. If a series premieres on a streaming service that loses billions of dollars and millions of subscribers, it's not a success. But following the 2019 release of The Rise of Palpatine, Lucasfilm efforts to get another trilogy off the ground have proceeded in fits and starts, or farts, with several high-profile projects being announced only to disappear into development limbo. Disney has planted 3 Star Wars films on the release calendar in 2026 and 2027, including that Rey film, Bring It On, but hasn't revealed any details about those movies, nor will they. I'll believe there's a new Star Wars movie when I'm seated in the theater and seeing the opening crawl, says Josh Spiegel, a freelance film critic who specializes in Disney. Streaming was positioned as the greatest business ever, and it did live up to the hype, says Nispol, another analyst. Disney's losing more money than people thought it would, and the market became saturated more quickly than people expected. Well, some people were trying to warn you. At the same time, the ground is shifting under linear TV, and the parks business that had been a cash cow hasn't fully recovered from the pandemic. Those are far bigger problems. Yes, they are. Yet there's still a bigger problem out there that the Access Media, again, refuses to acknowledge. So we've established that Disney Star Wars, Disney Marvel, Pixar, and Disney are all tainted brands, and now the parks are suffering, and of course it's COVID's fault. Disney World had the slowest 4th of July in a decade and the lowest waits all year. And if that wasn't embarrassing enough, Indiana Jones and the Descent into Dementia was beaten by 2 independent films, including Insidious for the entire second weekend and Sound of Freedom on July 4th, a film Disney let go. And things got so bad, the guy who said this...
Well, when was the last time you bought a ticket and went into a movie theater? Has it been a while?
I have seen movies on a big screen.
Yes.
You know, in a theater.
Right.
but there was nobody else in the room.
Did you shoot Greedo first, or did Greedo shoot you first?
I don't care.
Was forced to say this.
For more than 40 years, I've been honored to be your Indiana Jones. Every moment of this adventure has been made for you, the fans, and it's been one of the greatest joys of my career.
I don't care.
Again, we've heard a lot of reasons why Disney is failing right now, and they are legitimate, but we haven't heard the biggest one. Pissing off your audience. And what led to that? Well, I'll try to do this off the top of my head. Horrific writing that led to beloved characters being sacrificed on the altar of agenda, including Han, Luke, Leia, Captain America, and Iron Man, who were all killed off, and Disney thought you could just move past them when they are the brand. And some of the core characters that were left were vandalized beyond all recognition, including but not limited to Obi-Wan, Boba Fett, Hulk, Hawkeye, Thor, all leading to the overall destruction of the beloved IPs that we, the fans, made worth the billions you paid for them. But way to go, Disney. You've turned billions into millions. Biggest mistake of them all, you got political. You chose a side, but not just any partisan side. The family brand known as Disney came out against the family. And it's not like we haven't tried to warn you for years. And it's good that our friend Christian Toto has decided to echo that sentiment from Hollywood and Toto. Dear Hollywood, listen to your fearless critics, or else. Industry must consider contrarian views before another can't-miss film misses. Unfortunately, Christian, I think it's a little late for that. You know what almost immediately kills any comic book, game, movie, film, show, YouTube channel, intellectual property, or brand? And I'm looking at you, Disney. It's betraying the core ideals and values of your established brand, and in turn, you betray the audience. In other words, the paying customer. Indiana Jones and the Depends of Diarrhea was the abysmal failure that needed to happen. Disney can't cover this up. They can't blame Russian bots. They can't blame some vast alt-right conspiracy. They can't blame review bombing. They can't blame the fans. You gotta hit bottom before anything can change, followed by taking responsibility, which Disney will never do, and I honestly don't care. As one gatekeeper falls or spends the next few years trying to right the ship, I see this as an opportunity for 1,000 more gates to open. There's no better time than now to be an independent creator. And that's why Disney failing is a good thing. If you like what you heard, please like, share, and subscribe. If you didn't like what you heard, I thank you for listening this long. I will see you in the next video.
Nerdrotic.com.
No, 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 no.